Welcome on into WFRV plus Sports Night, riding solo tonight on this Wednesday night. A whole lot of nights. And hey, you could put to bed the Packers season, but that does not mean we don't have a lot of coverage coming your way here on WFRV plus Sports Night. Hey everyone, Cameron is there with you all night long, or at least for the next 30 minutes to, honestly, we could talk a lot of things, but let's talk Packers, because as much as the season might be over, the off season is here. And is there such thing as a season that's off? Because right now, plenty of swirling questions around a whole lot of things. And yes, we can start with the most glaring one being Matt LaFleur and if he will be extended, because President and CEO Ed Policy made it abundantly clear he does not want LaFleur and even General Manager Brian Gutekunst to coach and be the general manager in contract years, meaning it would be the final year of their deal. And this upcoming year is the final year of both their deals. Now, I want to delve in to what I think is going to happen, because, of course, right now, nothing has happened yet. And I think a lot of people are shocked because of all the coaches that have either stepped down or been let go. You think of the John Harbaughs, the Mike Tomlins, and then the situation with Jonathan Gannon in Arizona, and then the situation in Tennessee, and then Pete Carroll after a year getting fired in Vegas, and New York, and obviously Brian Dable getting fired during the season in their search, and it looks like they're close on a deal with former Ravens coach John Harbaugh. And as time continues to, is it push on, or I would say trudge on for Matt LaFleur, I think people are becoming less confident that a deal will get done, because obviously I think they prefer to have it done as soon as possible. And if time keeps ticking, then it means something's wrong, right? I don't know if something's wrong. I think we can speculate to the moon, but what I'll tell you is, and we just had Green Bay Nation earlier on in the day, Ryan Wood believing that they cannot keep Matt LaFleur because of what he's shown in the playoffs. And if you want to keep up that streak, then you're continuing on this fabric and culture problem that has resulted in a 3-6 playoff record over the last 7 years. Marcus Eversole disagreeing with that, but agreeing there needs to be changes made on that staff, i.e. Rich Bisaccia no longer being the special teams coordinator or the assistant head coach. This is my 2 cents. Matt LaFleur should be the coach of the Green Bay Packers next season. I think the difficulty with it is how much are you willing to pay him, and what deal are you willing to settle on, knowing that his track record is what it is. Great in the regular season, but not the best in the playoffs. Can you settle on 3 or 4 years? Do you struggle with that, knowing he still has this extra year on his contract? So if you extend him by maybe 2 years, then he has 3 years left on the deal. But again, they do not want him to coach. And a lot of the times, they don't want coaches to coach on the year that is penultimate, because they know maybe that's a pressure year because you're supposed to get extended before your final year of your deal. Do you give him a 4-year deal and then bank on what he's been able to do with Jordan Love and the development of him? And again, LaFleur's your play caller. You bring someone else in, all of a sudden, with the team that you have constructed, and by you, I mean Matt LaFleur has constructed, yes, Brian Gutekunst and the front office has constructed the team, but LaFleur has glued them together. You think of Jaden Reed, think of Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, that entire wide receiving core, Matthew Golden, are all 2022 and beyond, when it was out of Rodgers and in with Love. Think of the offensive line. A lot of them are those, not homegrown, but Green Bay has drafted and developed. And I know a lot of the successful players that have come in, like the Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinneys and Micah Parsons, those guys aren't draft and developed players, but a good majority of the team is. So if you get rid of LaFleur, and again, talking to those guys in the locker room a few days ago, that's the only head coach they've had. So now he's out the door. You bring in someone else. Do you wonder how long does it take for them to gel? Which is obviously why you'd prefer to have a head coach either in place this week, or you hire one as soon as possible to get the process going if it isn't Matt LaFleur. But Marcus Eversole made a great point on Green Bay Nation. Once LaFleur is gone, he is one of the top head coaching candidates for a different job. And then his offensive mastermind, because I get it. The Packers have struggled down the stretch in games. and in seasons. But if it wasn't for Matt LaFleur, this team's not 9-3-1. Yes, if it wasn't for Jordan Love and Micah Parsons. But if it isn't for the scheming of Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love doesn't have the game that he has in Pittsburgh. The Packers aren't 9-3-1. With the aggressiveness that he showed, not just in Arizona by going for it in that Tucker Kraft pass to ultimately take the lead and not just kick the field goal. But the Lions game on Thanksgiving, 3 for 3 on fourth down. I think a lot of people thought just kick the field goal. It came down to a touchdown. And Matt LaFleur got 2 touchdowns on fourth down. And then a touchdown, a first down to ice the game. So as much, and I understand 7 years, no Super Bowl, only 3 playoff wins. I get it. But you think of John Harbaugh, think of Mike Tomlin. Those guys haven't been to a Super Bowl in over a decade or a dozen years. It's a long time. Now, once we get into the Matt LaFleur era of 10 years without a Super Bowl, okay, now you start having the question. But LaFleur had the benefit of Aaron Rodgers, then reset. It didn't even feel like a reset with how Green Bay has looked. Not just with the talent that they have developed, but also the winning culture they have developed, which has then attracted talent from the outside. No offense to Green Bay, but there are a lot of other organizations out there that might seem prettier. Why wouldn't you want to go play for the Los Angeles Rams, the San Francisco 49ers, heck, the Seattle Seahawks? Name them, the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Giants, even with Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo, the Buffalo Bills. Green Bay is a historical franchise. You go and play for Green Bay because you want to wear the G on your helmet. And who embodies that? Who embraces that? It's the guy that leads the charge. Because if Green Bay took a nosedive from 2023 onward, you don't get Josh Jacobs. You don't get Xavier McKinney. You don't get those 2 key free agents without what Jordan Love did in the back half of the 2023 season, which was largely instigated by how Matt LaFleur set up the offense. And if you don't get Xavier McKinney and you don't get Josh Jacobs, guess what? You don't get Micah Parsons. Maybe Tucker Kraft doesn't look the way he does. Everyone in that locker room made it clear we want Matt LaFleur, especially with the complexity of the offense and even defensive guys. Javon Bullard, he's our head coach. He's a leader of men. He's a carrier of the culture that is Green Bay. Now, it hasn't been a winning culture consistently enough in the postseason. But what's stopping the Packers from running the table next year, winning 3 or 4 games in the playoffs, and all of a sudden you're looking at Matt LaFleur's record and saying, wait a second, he has an over 500 record in the playoffs because of one season. I'll be darned if Mike McCarthy's playoff record as a coach of the Green Bay Packers had a lot of blips in it, but didn't look a lot better with that run the table year where you win 4 games and win the Super Bowl. That's how you have to view it. You extend Matt LaFleur. You are currently in an experiment that has almost left the lab. And why in the world would you yank it out of a lab and put it in a different one when that could restart the experiment? Restart with the new atmospheric air that the other parts of that lab aren't used to. I'm just saying. He is a part of what this team is building. He is a large reason why this team has been built. Micah Parsons, a defensive player, called Matt and said, "You're a large reason why I wanted to come to Green Bay." If this team didn't have Micah Parsons, as we saw at the end of the season, you're still looking at them as Super Bowl contenders with Kenny Clark. But you look at them a lot more seriously with Micah Parsons on that defense. And without Micah Parsons, Devontae Wyatt doesn't look the way he does. Lucas Van Ness early season doesn't look the way he does. Rashawn Gary, heck, doesn't look the way he does. The cornerbacks might be exposed. Edgerrin Cooper, does he look the same? I know he had a great rookie season, but there were times it felt like he was transcending. And a large reason why is because he had more time to operate because the quarterback didn't have much time to move around the pocket. And why I bring up players like that is it's all part You talk about coaching trees. This is all a part of the Matt LaFleur schematic tree that are the Green Bay Packers. So I extend LaFleur. You could disagree with me. If you disagree, I understand, right? Because the pedigree that is laid out there in terms of talent to parallel success is a little jarring for a franchise that is the Green Bay Packers. But what will a new coach do? Will a new coach win in his first year? I get it. Look what Ben Johnson's doing. I think it's great. The Bears have come back in 8 games this season in 12 wins. Do I think that's a culture thing that Ben Johnson is instilling? Of course. Do I think that Ben Johnson was ready to be a head coach years before he actually got the head coaching job? Yes. But Matt LaFleur is consistently leading his teams to wins where you look at them and say, that team's ready to win a Super Bowl now. I think the Bears are a few years away, but there's no shot at the Bears. But that's just the nature of it. It's the nature of the conversation that everyone's willing to have. But they're also willing to downplay the impact of what Matt LaFleur has done. And if you think switching up the culture will help, it's the same team. It's the same team. And they've all said that they rally around Matt, and the energy and the fire that he brings and the bravado is who and what they want to play for. So if you bring in someone else, it means bringing in an entire new staff. Think about that. For the most part, this team has loved what this staff is. From Sean Duggan to Ryan Downard to Ben Sermons, heck to Luke Getsy. You name them, this team likes them. To Luke Butkus. Now, if you get rid of a few of those pieces, I can understand that. But to get rid of the head coach at a time where without the injuries, you're saying the Green Bay Packers possibly win a Super Bowl, too much change necessary in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion. We're going to take a break on WFRV Plus Sports Night. I also have a lot of thoughts on who the Packers should keep, why they should keep them, why they should let some walk, why they should cut a few for cap space, and we're going to talk about that next on the show. Let's keep things rolling here on WFRV Plus Sports Night. Cameron Ezair with you on this Wednesday. We're kind of wrapping things up with the Packers because the offseason is never truly an offseason, right? There are a good amount of free agents for this team, unrestricted and restricted, 21 total. And I wanted to bring to light not just who they are, but what I think the Packers should do with them. Because as much as the conversation is around Matt LaFleur, and he even said Jeff Hafley will most likely get one of the head coaching jobs. I think Hafley talked to the Cardinals today. And they're talking, I think he talked to the Dolphins earlier today, and he has interviews set up later in the week. But again, LaFleur saying, yeah, Hafley's going to get one of those, even though the players think he's coming back another year, or at least Micah Parsons does. But as much as the coaching staff is a talking point, let's be honest. The guys on the field that make the plays. So let me give you my assessment on who I think the Packers should keep, who I think the Packers are going to cut, who I think the Packers aren't going to re-sign, this, that, and the third. Let's get to those unrestricted free agents that have more name brand to them, not like the Nick Niemans, who's the linebacker who was out that torn pec for a little bit and no real reason to keep him unless you possibly can. He was in that trade earlier on in the year. Or even the Christian Welch's, the Iowa Scandinavia native that Kamal Haddon's restricted free agent, but he's, ripped up his ankle pretty bad. So let's get to the guys that they have some name brandedness to their name, and we should talk about them. And it starts with left tackle Rasheed Walker. Part of that 2022 draft class of O-linemen who made up 60% of the Packers O-line, with Walker, Zach Tom, and Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan's another talking point, but they already paid Tom, and obviously they already paid the left guard Aaron Banks. Now they could still cut him, save a good amount in cap, but if you do that, you just paid $30 million for 1 year of Aaron Banks and one iffy year. But you just saw what happened at right guard. You slot in Anthony Belton, which honestly, the Elton Jenkins injury was maybe the best thing to happen to the Packers because they might not even need him back. You've proven that you can get Sean Ryan for cheaper at center if you want to cut Jenkins. And Anthony Belton's been a home run in that second round of last year or this past year's draft as a rookie. He was incredible when he slotted in there at right guard, a mauler inside. But Rasheed Walker's interesting because in terms of durability, he's been out there. And that's what the Packers need at left tackle to protect Jordan Love. There were a lot of moments in that Bears wildcard game where he was not at his best, especially in the second half, especially in this third quarter, in which the Packers accumulated under 30 total yards of offense on their first 4 drives after their first 3 drives of the game resulted in 3 touchdowns. This is a tough one, man. But I don't think you keep Rasheed Walker. I do think Walker is a good player. When you have an arm that's worth $220 million in your backfield, you do not need good at your left tackle. You need great. And the fact that the Packers drafted a guy in Jordan Morgan who's played both tackle and guard, but it's pretty obvious that his primary position and where he's at his best is tackle, even though he usually plays on the right side and did so when Zach Tom was out. If you can cross-train him over at left, you're talking about a player who, because he's a first-round pick, has that 5th-year team option. So the Packers have him for another 3 years. Or you pay Rasheed market money. That's a lot of money for a guy who has been out there, has been sustainable. I don't know if the success has been. So I'd say cut Rasheed Walker. Pardon me, not cut him. Just don't have him back. Because I feel like everything led up, and the offensive lineman that they've been drafting, everything has led up to this team really relying on draft and develop on the O-line. And I think this year you even go after a left tackle who is primarily a left tackle to see what you could do with Aaron Banks in the future. Because if he doesn't continue to perform, I mean, you have your left tackle, whoever you draft high. I think you take your second round pick, you draft a left tackle this year. And maybe then Jordan Morgan's your left guard. And then you're really in that draft and develop boat. I think you do the same thing at center, depending on the Sean Ryan conversation, but we'll get there. Quay Walker. 2 players that had a chance to pick up their 5th-year team options in the summer was Walker, it was Devontae Wyatt. They chose to pick it up for Devontae Wyatt, which was a great move. They would have done it anyway, even after the injury. But the fact that he had a breakout season in just 9 games, 4 sacks, plenty of tackles, clogged up the trenches, and then he gets hurt, and he'll be back by training camp, or at least that's his estimation. Quay Walker's an interesting one. I will say about 3/4 of the season, he was playing some gosh darn football. That guy was having himself a season, even though statistically wasn't eye-popping, but it didn't have to be, right? It's not your Edgerrin Cooper who's aggressive toward the line and can also drop back. He's more so your hovering linebacker, while Isaiah McDuffie, again, is your attack the quarterback linebacker. Again, really tough one, but I think it says something that they drafted Tyron Hopper, who played 1 snap against Chicago on an interception. Quay has been known to not catch his interceptions. You draft Hopper out of Missouri, and you don't pick up Quay's option. I think that says more than people think about what the Packers are going to do. I don't think that you give Quay Walker a deal. Again, something about Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper, and again, with McDuffie, you signed him to a 2-year deal last year, so you have him under contract for next year, which can give you some wiggle room. And Edgerrin Cooper showed what he is as a second-round pick. You just go to the draft for a linebacker. Sean Ryan, interesting one. In terms of cost, I don't think you're paying that much. Now, he had that bone bruise that cost the Packers very costly, 10 seconds, that 10-second runoff in the 4th quarter. I keep Sean Ryan. Now, again, this is interesting because you either give Sean Ryan a deal, a 3-4 year deal, whatever it may be, at center, to play center. But if so, you cut Elton Jenkins, you save some cap space there, or you keep Elton Jenkins, you get rid of Sean Ryan, but then you don't have to, you're not saving any cap space in that regard. So I feel like it only makes sense to get rid of Elton Jenkins. Then the problem with that, though, is if Jenkins is fine with not having to restructure anything because, of course, the injury, and I don't think that his agents are going to go into a third year of a 4-year contract and be like, he deserves more money or whatever it may be. He's getting paid well above what he should get paid at center because, normally a guard, but had to switch over to center once Josh Myers went to the Jets in the offseason. I think you keep Sean Ryan. Keep Sean Ryan, you save cap space with Elton Jenkins, you get younger. I think you go with that. Romeo Dobbs. This is tough. You drafted Matthew Golden to almost be a Romeo Dobbs replacement, but we've seen all season long how valuable Dobbs is. Jaden Reed had that big drop. Christian Watson, of course, coming off that ACL. And Dobbs made some plays in that wild card round where they probably should have won the game because of Dobbs. I know Golden had his touchdown, had those 4 big catches. I don't think you can keep Dobbs, though. I think he had one heck of a season in terms of his average catches and yards. I mean, I think he's a really good 2 or 3 elsewhere. And honestly, 2, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I just don't know if the Packers can do it. It'd be great if they could. But then you worry about this. You pay Dobbs, he's not going to take a 2-year deal. He'll want a longer deal. You got Christian Watson to pay after next year because you gave him that 1-year, $13 million kind of insurance contract. I don't think you can keep Dobbs. Let's move some quickly through these. Actually, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll break down the rest of the unrestricted free agents and what I think the Packers should do next on the show. Let's wrap up things here on WFRV Plus Sports Night. Cameron is there with you. We're walking through the Packers unrestricted free agents and what I think Green Bay should do. Of course, it kind of means nothing what I think, but at least I can provide a little context behind who I think they should keep and who not. And it'll be nice when it does or doesn't happen. I'll see if I'm right. Kingsley Enagbare ending his rookie deal of 4 years. Gosh, I keep him. You already have Lucas Van Ness, right? Because you have him on his 4th year and then his 5th-year team option because he's a first-round pick. Rashawn Gary, I think you got to cut him for cap space, $11 million. Gosh, I mean, for a guy who at the beginning of the season looked so good, I just don't think the performance has been there. And he only has a few years left. You already have Micah Parsons. I know they have a lot of confidence in Baron Sorrell and Colin Oliver, who you have locked down for the next 3 years as they just wrapped up their rookie seasons. But it's something about JJ, man. And it's something about Micah coming off an injury, so he'll miss all of training camp. And I just think that Enagbare, if you can find him some wiggle room between what the Packers desire and what he wants and kind of find that middle ground, I really do think he can impact this team, at least at the beginning of the year, him and Lucas Van Ness on the edge. Because he had one heck of a season in terms of pressures and a durability to just staying on the field. But gosh, this guy can get to the quarterback with the best of them. And it's something about how he blows up O linemen to clog gaps in the running lanes. I think Enigbare's defense against the run was very good. Again, as a 5th rounder, I think you hit, and I don't think it's worth letting him go. But I would understand if they did let him go. John Fitzpatrick, it's an interesting one. I thought he was due for maybe a mini 2-year deal after what he's done this season in terms of pass blocking and being a viable option without Tucker Kraft, maybe for a couple weeks to open the season, and then Luke Musgrave not being the most consistent type of guy for a high round pick. But then he tore his Achilles. I mean, you're not going to get him back until maybe the end of the year. Maybe you do a 1-year friendly deal because of what happened, but I don't think it's worth keeping Fitzpatrick, even though I do think he was a valuable part of the team, which is why losing him was so detrimental. Malik Willis, you can't keep him. Unless Malik Willis loves it here in Green Bay so much so that he didn't care about the money he'll get elsewhere. I think the whole Desmond Ridder move made it very obvious that was their next Malik Willis, because wherever Willis goes, make a lot of money, and he's going to start. I mean, it's not worth wasting the talent. Also, Green Bay, after paying their quarterback $55 million a year, can't pay their backup, $20 million. It just doesn't even make sense. In their books, it doesn't even make sense. So Yeah, I don't think you keep Willis, even though you'd love to. Christian Welch, again, I don't think any team's fiending out there to get Christian Welch. I remember he's bounced in and out of the team practice squad, game day roster for a while with this team. And I will say his presence was missed on special teams. You can get him on a cheap deal, great. If you can't, I don't think that, it's similar to a McDuffie, right? If you get him on a nice team friendly cheap deal, you got it. You can find someone else. Okay, you can find someone else. Nick Neiman, like I mentioned, I mean, again, you really didn't see the full extent of Nick Neiman because both he's on special teams and that torn pec kind of ruined it. But you missed him on special teams. I mean, talk about solid, reliable, and a Christian Welch. I mean, Nick Neiman was having a heck of a season on teams, which again you don't see often. And of course, his one defensive snap was on that 2-point conversion to Colston Loveland. So that's how everyone knows the name Nick Neiman. If you can get him back, great. I mean, why not find the right price for him? Those are 9 unrestricted free agents for the Packers. Let me just check one thing because what did I think? Yeah. Yeah. Emmanuel Wilson signed as an exclusive rights free agent. It was a 1-year deal for this past season. Part of me thinks it'll be just way too difficult to get him back with what he showed with that 100-yard game and beyond. So that's also a tough one that you'll most likely have to lose. Because I mean, why in the world? Especially if you hope that Marshawn Lloyd can play up to his 3rd-round potential if he can stay healthy, right? And you think that he can be the backup, there's no reason for Emmanuel Wilson to just keep backing up a guy in Josh Jacobs who will want to play every game, even if his knee is ripped up or his thigh or whatever it is. Okay, that'll do it for WFRV Plus Sports Night. Appreciate you for tuning in again. I think this team extends Matt LaFleur. Then the conversation goes to the players, and I think you keep Kingsley Enagbare and Sean Ryan. The rest you kind of got to let walk. You got to cut Elton Jenkins, cut Rashawn Gary, cut a few more. I think the biggest loss will be Romeo Doubs for that offense because he came in clutch a multitude of times. We will see you tomorrow. Might talk some more Packers or even Green Bay men's and women's basketball playing really well. But I'm Cameron Azair, and we will see you then.